faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. In this eternal truth lies the foundation of all believing, that the unseen is more real than the seen, and that trust precedes understanding. The cloud of witnesses. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that comes by keeping faith with God. Abraham's journey. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. From this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. Though all these people were still living by faith when they died, they did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. People who say such things show that they are looking for a country of their own. If they had been thinking of the country they had left, they would have had opportunity to return. Instead, they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead. And so, in a manner of speaking, he did receive Isaac back from death. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be ill-treated along with the people of God, rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He regarded disgrace for the sake of righteousness as of greater value than the treasures of the world, because he was looking ahead to his reward. By faith, he left behind all earthly security, not fearing the king's anger, because he persevered, seeing him who is invisible. There are others who were tortured, refusing to be released, so that they might gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and flogging, and even chains and imprisonment. They were put to death by stoning. They were sawn in two. They were killed by the sword. They went about in sheepskins and goatskins, destitute, persecuted, and ill-treated. The world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and in holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised, since God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. The ancients were not praised for their success in the world. They were commended for their trust in an unseen God, a trust that demanded obedience without sight, surrender without certainty, and perseverance without immediate reward. Their faith was not passive belief. It was active obedience, Abraham leaving everything he knew, Noah building what had never been built, Moses choosing suffering over comfort, the prophets enduring persecution for a kingdom they would never see with earthly eyes. These witnesses testify to a truth that transcends every age, that the things of God are more substantial than the things we can touch and see. That fidelity to the unseen good is the deepest form of sanity, that we are made for something beyond ourselves. Notice that these faithful ones remained strangers in the lands they inhabited. They did not settle. They did not pretend the temporary was permanent. They lived as exiles because they understood that this world is not our final home. They were longing for a better country, a heavenly one, and this longing shaped every choice they made. This is not escapism. This is clarity. When you know where you are truly going, every detour becomes visible. Every false comfort loses its power to deceive. The invisible realm, the presence of God, the promise of redemption, the eternal city was more real to these witnesses than their circumstances. When God called Abraham to leave Ur, Abraham saw what God promised more clearly than he saw the security of his homeland. When Moses chose suffering, he saw the glory beyond it. This is what faith truly is, not the absence of doubt, but the presence of a greater vision. Not blindness, but the eyes of the heart opened to what is real. We live in the fulfillment of their faith. Their witness surrounds us like a cloud, and we are called not to abandon their path, but to walk it further. They looked forward to what we now possess in Christ. They endured in hope for what we inherit in reality. Therefore, we too are called to live as those who see the invisible, who trust the untested, who persevere toward a city whose architect is God. Not because comfort demands it, not because the world rewards it, but because it is true. Our faith is the same faith. Our God is the same God. And our promise is not diminished by theirs. It is affirmed by it. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles us. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith. In the silence of your heart, know this: you are not alone in your journey. The faithful ones who have gone before you are witnesses to the reality you are learning to see. Their sacrifice teaches you that the things of God are worth the cost of surrender. Their perseverance shows you that faithfulness is rewarded not by the world, but by God, and that is enough. The invisible kingdom is real. The promises of God are certain, and you are called, as they were called, to see what cannot yet be seen, to trust what has not yet been delivered, and to remain faithful to what is eternally true. Be still. Know that He is God, and let faith, that assurance of things hoped for, that evidence of things not yet visible, be your anchor.